Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you today about some networking tips that you can take when you are in your trade show booth. Okay, now here at the Trade Group, we design and build trade show exhibits, but those are just sales material. They're a sales tool. They're not there to actually sell the product itself. It's there to support the sales team to sell the product. So the team is the one that carries the attendee to the finish line. Now, I want to focus on 3 tips when you're networking at a trade show and you're in a booth that will help you to engage with attendees on a deeper level. It'll help you build trust and connect with them and build rapport with attendees quickly, and will help you make that sale or book that meeting. Now, I've attended trade shows myself, and I've also done a lot of reading on this topic. And one of the books I want to highly recommend to you is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Chris Voss is a former FBI negotiator. Now, this book is mainly about negotiation. He did a lot of hostage situations, but a lot of the principles that he gives can be applied to, going out and buying a new car or negotiating a new salary at where you work. But there are a few things in here that we can take away and bring into the trade show booth that I think would be incredibly useful. Now, on one of our videos on the Show and Sell podcast, I actually had Jason on, who's been in sales his whole life. And he gave some very incredible insight. I asked him, are $1 million deals made on the show floor? And his answer was that $1 million deals are originated on the show floor. And what he meant was that you're not going to sign $1 million right there on the show floor with somebody you just met. That higher price point means that people are going to be much more thorough in their research, and they're looking to connect on a very personal level with you before they're willing to invest that kind of money into your product or your service. And so the trade shows, though, allow you to start that connection, allow you to build rapport with the person that you're selling to for those bigger projects. And there's a few things that Chris Voss talks about in his book that can really help you build rapport with somebody pretty quickly. So I want to go through 3 of them. The first one you probably will have heard before, but it's ask open-ended questions. So if you're on a show floor, you don't want to ask a question that's going to get a yes or no response. For example, are you having a good day? Yes or no. That's not a very good or in-depth question. You also don't want to ask careless, open-ended questions. You don't want to say something like, how are you doing today? Because that question puts them on a spot, and when they hear it, they immediately think, oh, this is going to take so much time. Just get to the point. They're at a trade show, which means they're there to research products to begin with. So yes, they're going to be interested in hearing what you have to say, more so than if you just approach them on the street, but they still need you to get to the point because there's a lot of booths on the show floor. So one open-ended question that we recommend our clients ask, if they ever ask us about training booth staff, is we tell them to ask, what are you looking for at this year's show? Or some kind of variation of that. Because the kind of answer that they give, you'll be able to make a determination really quickly if they're part of your target audience or not. And if they're not part of your target audience, then you can disengage. If they're looking for something that's a different product than yours, and the show floor, you can actually direct them and be helpful and useful and direct them to another booth. But if they are in your target audience, then you can really start to have a very meaningful conversation with them just based on that one question. So that's one tip from Chris Voss's book, is ask open-ended questions. The next tip that he does, and this is going to start into building a rapport, is after you've asked that question, you want to try and mirror them. This is a very important term that Chris Voss talks about, and he spends a whole chapter on this concept. Now, some people are uncomfortable with the concept of mirroring because they just feel a little a little creepy, but that's because they're over exaggerating it. All mirroring is that you're repeating something that somebody said in a sentence, something that is can be brought out a little bit more and reveal more about what they're looking for. So for instance, if I ask somebody at a trade show, what are you looking for at this year's show? And they respond with, oh, well, we're really just here to kind of research and get ideas. What I can do to mirror them is I can repeat back to them and say, ideas? Now, also important with the mirroring is the inflection of your voice. So you don't want to, say ideas and look at them like, what are you talking about? You want to have a slight upward inflection, and you want to repeat something, because what that does is it invites them to open up and describe in more detail what they're looking for, what kind of ideas they're looking for. And it could be ideas that you have. And so that could open up the conversation. It's like, well, do you mind if I show you this in our booth? We just launched this new product, a month ago. And this may be something really you might really find interesting. So you want to mirror them by repeating back to them a word that they've used. The other thing is, when you're practicing mirroring, is once you've repeated the word back to them, you want to pause. You want there to be enough space to let them reply. It kind of forces a reply a little bit, but it's not super uncomfortable either. As a matter of fact, when you start using this, you'll be amazed at how easy it is to draw more information out of people just by repeating the words that they say, because it shows that you're interested more in them. And that's the other thing about building rapport, and something that Chris Voss really talks about in his book. You would think that negotiation is hard, back and forth, bargaining, but most of the time it's not, especially for these big, high-stake deals. What it's really about is listening, hearing the other person, and communicating with them in an empathetic manner. You're putting yourself in their shoes. You're not going and talking all about how awesome you are, how awesome your product is, and all that stuff. No, it's really about the person you're talking to. And Chris Voss also talks about this. It is very difficult to listen to people. And the reason why it's difficult to listen to people is because as somebody is responding to your question, we are always in the back of our mind thinking about, okay, when they get done answering this question, what's the next question I'm going to ask? What am I going to say next? We're thinking about what we're going to reply with. We're not actually listening to them. If we were actually listening to them, we could mirror more effectively, draw more information out from them, and then really show them how our product or service fulfills or solves their need, their problem. So we have ask open-ended questions, mirror them, and then the third thing that you want to do is labeling. And labeling is a very important device that you can use to build rapport as well. And what labeling is it's paying attention to a person's body language, their inflection, their tone of voice when they say something. And so if I see somebody who is, in the booth, and we're in conversation, and they're telling me that, yeah, we're looking, for ideas, but there hasn't been a lot that we've seen on the show floor, this year. It's kind of, just okay. An example of labeling would be me saying in reply, man, it seems like you have really high standards and you're looking for the best of the best, or it seems like, you're pretty disappointed with the show so far. And what I've done there is I've just labeled. I just said, it looks like, it seems like, it sounds like. If you start your label with in one of those three ways, that's what you're doing, you're labeling. And what it does is it makes them feel seen. All right? It makes them feel seen. And that is so important when you're trying to build rapport with somebody, because it means you're actually taking notice of them. You're actually engaged in listening and watching them. Now, there is, and Chris Voss covers this as well, there is the danger of mislabeling somebody, but it's actually not as big a danger as you would think. because when you mislabel somebody, you're actually inviting them to correct you. And this is not a bad thing because people love to correct other people. And it gives you another opportunity to listen further about what their pain point is. So those are 3 tips that you can take onto the show floor when you're working a booth that could really help level up the way that you network on the show floor. Now, one other thing I want to touch on though is these tips are great, but before you get to the show floor, you've got to have a crystal clear goal, okay? Now, again, the booth is not the product itself. It's helping you sell the product. So it's creating an environment where you can demonstrate how the product or the service works. But you've got to do the work of building those relationships and conversations and building that trust with the client. So oftentimes when you're in a booth and you've got a product that sells, is $30,000 to $1 million, you're not going to sell it right then and there, but what you are trying to sell is a meeting. So you have to be crystal clear that when you're at a show, your goal isn't just to scan badges, your goal is to sell meetings, right? When you engage with someone and have a conversation with them, you always want to end by asking, hey, you want to follow up and have a meeting and talk more about this in your company? Always try to get a meeting on the show floor. So be crystal clear with your goals. Now, those are 3 just super fast tips. I highly recommend you guys, again, picking up this book. It's worth every single penny. Each page is filled with real life examples, outstanding tips, even down to which words to use, which words not to use in particular situations. It is a very incredible, useful tool, and not just for trade show booths, but for every other area in your life that you're working at your job, when you're going and you're buying products yourself, you're negotiating with your spouse, everything. It's excellent. And really, it comes back down to being empathetic and listening to people. That's what negotiating is all about. You're trying to convince the other person on their turf, on their ground. And that's not an easy thing to do. Now, if you enjoyed this short little video, please check out this video right here. We've done some other unfiltered just like this. In this one, I talk about experiential marketing and how it can triple the price of your services and products. So it's really worth taking a look at too. If you liked and enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and see you on the show floor.